Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies. Before I talk about the movie I want to discuss today, I'm going to do a little mini haul. I hardly ever do uh, Blu-ray hauls because my liquidity is not what it once was, and I'm always in awe of movie channels where they show us 10, 15 movies physical releases that they buy every month. It's not something in the ballpark for me, but there was a Criterion flash sale this past Tuesday. I haven't participated in the flash sale, I don't think last year at all, but I purchased 4 titles, which haven't arrived yet, but it got me in the mood to buy to buy physical releases, and I have been eyeing one film. So this is a real mini haul. It was only one film, and I wanted to get Cutter's Way. This is a Radiance release. Came up just this past Tuesday with the J card, and it's a 4K Radiance and a fairly new label, recent label from the past 2 or 3 years. Is now putting out 4Ks, and this is a special edition. I loved this movie when it came out in 1980. It was originally known as Cutter and Bone, stars Jeff Bridges and John Hurd, Lisa Eichhorn, one of my favorites, actresses from the period. And they gave it a very much a special edition here, including a great robust booklet with lots of essays, a Q&A with the director Ivan Passer, and who was a Czech emigre. He came to America, part of the Czech New Wave, came to America with his good friend Milos Forman. So it's just loaded with pictures, with essays. Like I say, interview with Ivan Passer, and we even get there's Lisa Eichhorn. And then we get both the 4K and we get the Blu-ray on this set, and with loads of supplements, 3 commentaries, and I think Radiance has combined the supplements from 2 previous releases. I think it was Indicator and Twilight Time, might have been Imprint and Twilight Time. So there's all those supplements. They even added one of their own. So this is just a marvelous edition. Expensive, but on Amazon I got it for $33, and some Prime rewards diminished that cost even further. But I always think, when I ordered these recent releases from Criterion just doesn't give you this anymore. And I often wonder how the smaller labels are able to afford giving you such a robust package of supplements and commentaries for basically the same retail price. Okay, let's get to the, I'll do a little mini haul video next week, hopefully when my Criterion titles come in. But today I want to talk about a Kino release, a Kino 4K release, which was once a DVD release from Criterion. They never upgraded. Port of Shadows. This is from 1938. It's directed by Marcel Carne, and it stars Jean Gabin, and he was an absolute superstar of French cinema, and Michel Simon, who is probably the great character actor of 30s French cinema, and Michel Morgan, this is her second film, but she's only 18, and she makes quite an impression in this film. And this is what's often called poetic realism, meaning a very realistic story about average people, but with a atmosphere. In this film, we're set in Le Havre, a seaport, so there's lots of fog. There's just great set designs and lots of interesting characters. And these characters are presented originally as archetypes, and they're it took me a while. I've seen this film before, but not in many years. It takes a while, I think, to organize these archetypes and try to get a sense of where this film is going. It opens with Jean Gabin. He's hitchhiking, gets picked up by a truck. He's in an army uniform. He's a deserter, though the censors will not allow that word to be used. He pulls the truck over to the side because they're about to run over a dog in the middle of the road. and the truck owner is you know, angered by this, and the dog becomes a very integral part of the film. And I'll give a spoil here because whenever I see a cute dog at the beginning of a film, especially drama, I'm worried, is he going to make it to the end of the film? I'm very much a dog lover, and for some reason I worry about, even though I know it's make-believe. And so my spoiler is, if you're the same as me, the dog will survive to the end of the film. So we have this deserter, he comes into Le Havre, he's seeking passage aboard a ship bound for Venezuela. And a drunk along the street, sort of a homeless man, he befriends him, and he takes him, because the deserter, Jean Gabin, has no place to sleep. He takes him out to this sort of bar. It's very, it's a very strange little bar out in the point in the harbor, right next to the harbor. And here we find the owner, who is very philosophical and offers free food to Jean Gabin, and there's an artist there who's lost his inspirations, talking about committing suicide. And we have Michelle Morgan, who is looking out the window looking for her lover who has disappeared. And then we have Michel Simon also turns up because he's being chased by these local gangsters. They're sort of petty gangsters, and there's some shooting going on. So this is really, all the characters are here in near the opening sequence of the film, including the dog, who follows Jean Gabin around, and becomes an integral part of the drama. And this, so there's this mood, poetic realism, and fatalism. Really, this is a story where we get the feeling right off the bat that things are not going to go well for these people, and they're sort of lost in the fog. Jean Gabin has a line where he talks about the fog in the brain, because he has been fighting in Southeast Asia, which was French occupied in those days, and he mentions Tonkin. There was no fog. There was no fog in Tonkin. Famously for Americans, the Gulf of Tonkin resolution that initiated the big buildup of Americans in Vietnam. So he is disgusted with what he has endured. He has evidently been a killer, if not just in war, perhaps even outside of the war. And he's basically at the end of the line. He's seeking escape. Really, all these characters are, to one degree or another, seeking some sort of escape. And this poetic realism that Port of Shadows is often called the epitome. If you want to know what it is, you watch this film. But it also, the screenplay was by Jacques Prévert, and he was a poet. So when you see some of the supplements, you realize that Prévert's dialogue is very poetic. Well, of course, if you don't know French, you're going to miss that poetic quality to it. And there's a line here that's become very famous in French cinema, where Jean Gabin tells Michelle Morgan that you have beautiful eyes, and she responds, "Kiss me." Well, this is romance, of the highest order and most memorable in French cinema. But again, we are one step removed from what poetic realism, at least in the Jacques Prévert films, supply. And the fatalism of the movie played well with audiences, because the Popular Front had pretty much collapsed. Germany was on the move, and there was a feeling that terrible things were going to happen. We're in the offing, and they certainly were. So there's many collaborators here, and Jacques Prévert, or Marcel Carne, the director of the film, he Uh, he's often dismissed. There's one little story here, and I'd read this before, but I missed it, that that Francois Truffaut said of Marcel Carne that Jacques Prévert made some great films that Marcel Carne photographed. uh, but you don't get a sense that Marcel Carne wasn't the the ringmaster of all the talents that he used. And there's amazing talents on this film. The cinematography by Ernest Schufften. He was from German Expressionism, and Port of Shadows and Poetic Realism in general is often seen as the link between German Expressionism and post-war film noir. And Schufften would come to the U.S., to Hollywood, and he shot a couple of films, more than a couple, but two of them were The Hustler and Lilith for Robert Rossen. And then there's the production designer, Alexander Trauner, and he also came from German cinema, and he was just one of the great production designers of all time, maybe the best. He was noted for his forced perspective, and you see a lot of that in Port of Shadows. And he also, when he came to America, he filmed several Billy Wilder films, including The Apartment, which I just rewatched recently. And you see that forced perspective throughout the movie, throughout The Apartment, but also that great shot near the opening where Jack Lemmon is at his desk, and the office room just seems to go on forever in the background, and that's what Trauner was so great at. And he designed other of Prévert's or Marcel Carne's films as well, and so he had great collaborators. Maurice Joubert, who scored many French films in the 1930s and tragically died in the early days of World War II, provides some great music. So the film got a terrific reception. As I said earlier, Jean Gabin was the superstar. He just sort of emblemized France, the character of France, but the film, because of its downbeat nature, because of the deserter element of it, for 2 years, when Marshal Pétain came to power, and these films were not filmed, Marcel Carne filmed in the south of France, so they were never part of German rule. Of course, the Germans had not yet occupied France at the time of Port of Shadows. So the reception was excellent. Then it gets it gets censored, and this was a creative fervor for Marcel Carne, because he released 3 films in 1938. The other one, one of the other two, is Hotel du Nord, which Jacques Prévert did not write the screenplay to, which is in the Criterion Channel, and also Le Jours du Livre, which I think is in the Criterion Collection as well. So on Port of Shadows, we have a commentary, and this is a slipcase. This is 4K, if I hadn't mentioned before, Kino 4K. Same cover art. It has a commentary by Simon Abrams. I listened to another commentary by him fairly recently, and this is sort of the same, where he depends very much on quoting historians and people who worked on the film at length. It's not a bad commentary. It's a little jumbled. It's a little jumbled, but it's definitely worth listening to, and very much worth listening or watching is the documentary that they made concerning the making of Port of Shadows, with many historians and filmmakers, and depicting the influence, the impact, the influence of Port of Shadows. And so if you're interested in poetic realism, I checked out the Criterion Channel because I know they emphasize that. In fact, they do have a collection called French Poetic Realism. So if you're interested in And seeing more of that, there's actually, I counted 21 titles in that collection. And you can see Port of Shadows is streaming on Canopy if you do not have the Criterion channel. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.